Should you or should you not buy a $2.5 million property here in Singapore? Let's go! Hey guys, this is Marcus, and previously I posted a video on whether should you be buying a $2 million property, and I guess a lot of you liked it and you request for more. So this time around, with all the latest changes by the government in terms of the loan to value, all the cooling measures, right, I'm going to do a new video based on $2.5 million, whether should you or should you not buy it using a context. So this is going to be a long video with a lot of number crunching, so stay tuned to the end. And if you appreciate videos like this and the effort to calculate down to the details, right, do me a favor by liking this video so that the algorithm knows that this is relevant, and this will help other people out there who are in similar situations as you. Thank you. Now, when it comes to loan eligibility, why we always say that it only gets more and more difficult to purchase a property, because just by looking at the loan eligibility, right, before 2012, there wasn't TDSR. Basically, they will just assess your loan based on your income and what kind of funds you can show. So getting a loan was way easier. But ever since 29th of June 2013, government introduced this thing called TDSR, and it's a freaking game changer. Because back then, those uncle, right, to me, they were uncle, they were like 40, 50 years old. They were way older than me, but they have a lot of cash. When they want to buy a property, they can buy first property, second property, third property, all from different banks. And they don't really assess whether can they hold so many properties or not. Don't quote me for that, but that is generally how it happens. And that kind of like artificially inflates the market, because even though they don't need the place for own stay, they can actually buy it. So why do we as property people always advocate buying in early? Because real estate is always time sensitive. And what I mean by that is that today we have TDSR that was introduced in the year 2013. Before that, right, there wasn't any TDSR, and therefore, right, there's a lot of people who have higher income but they're over leveraged, and that caused the market to be a little bit artificially inflated, and people can just buy it as they want. But given today, right, after 2013's introduction of the TDSR, MAS didn't make it easier, because in year 2021, after the COVID lockdown, due to the increase in prices, right, government actually slapped the market with another change in the TDSR, with the TDSR floor rate increased to 4%, and also the total debt servicing ratio down to just 55%. That means your monthly mortgage and all your financial commitments cannot exceed 55% of your monthly income. Means to say that you are able to only get lesser loan. So now, right, if you use 4% based on a 30 years loan tenure, and you want to buy a $2.5 million property, your monthly mortgage is $8,952. So if you use 8,952, 8,952 divided by 0.6, means to say that you need to earn 15,000 combined income in order to afford the mortgage for a $2.5 million property. Is it easy? Let me know inside the comments. But today, right, bad news, it's getting even more difficult. That's why we are doing a year 2024 update. So today, right, this year, if you're buying a property, the bank is actually using 4.9% to make it even more difficult. So today, let's say in year 2024, when you want to buy a property, your monthly mortgage will be $9,951, higher than the previous 8,000 plus. So with 9,951, right, 9,951 divided by 0.55 means you need to make 18,000 combined income. Is it average income in Singapore? Absolutely not. Why? Because today average household income is 11K. So for you to afford a $2.5 million property purely on TDSR, and we are not even talking about the down payment yet, you need to make 18,000. What do you think? Is this average income? Let me know inside the comments. And importantly, right, just to spoil the party for a bit, if you think now you can afford, but let's say you don't want to buy this year and you are 35 years old and you want to wait until you are 40 years old, then you buy, right? Then your mortgage will become $10,852 instead. In order for you to buy this property, assuming if they don't further increase, right, you need to make almost 20K in order to buy back the same property. And trust me, 5 years from now, right, a $2.5 million property will not be able to get you a new launch 3-bed plus premium like what you can get right now for $2.5 million. So next, loan to value, LTV. Also means how much is your down payment. And in Singapore, definitely whatever properties you want to buy, you will have to pay down payment. And anybody tells you that you don't need down payment, zero cash to start up, is either by very over creative ways that you wouldn't want to touch or carries a lot of risk in it. You won't want to do it. And why I say you won't want to do it? Because why people want to buy property? Because property is literally one of the safest investment you can ever do. It's one of the most secured loan that banks would love to give out, and therefore the interest rate is one of the lowest amongst all the different kind of investment. So anybody tell you go and buy without down payment, try not to, because a good property investment will usually have a lot of people who want to buy. And if the down payment can be absorbed by the person that's selling, most likely it means that the property, nobody want to buy one lah. So if you go and cure this kind of property, right, most likely you will need to suffer the brunt of it. So much of all this risk assessment. Let's move on to the down payment. So looking at the milestones, right, when I first joined real estate in year 2008, right, interestingly, down payment was only 10%. Those that were looking at properties at that point in time will leave a comment in the comment section. Did I miss anything or not? Back then, it was only down payment was 10%. 3-bedroom Queen's condo was only going for about 1.2 over million. I remember I sold it to a client. The down payment was only 10%. So in other words, right, you just need to pay 10% down payment, 5% cash, 5% CPF. You can buy a $1.3 million property. Today, right, 130,000 can get you what? Make a guess. Divide by 2.8, you can only buy a $464,000 property. Basically, you cannot buy anything for 130K. So because back then it was 10% down payment, after that in year 2011, after the Lehman crisis, when the market actually crashed quite badly, it recovered after the first quantitative easing, a lot of jargons, but those, if you know, you know, the market actually went up really steeply. And in year 2011, when I made my first pot of gold, government suddenly slapped the market and said that now you want to buy property, down payment is 20%, 5% cash, 15% CPF. And it was a big game changer for a lot of people who are just beginning to look for properties. And those people that say that, hey, 20 years ago and now buy house very difficult lah. Bro, every year buy house also difficult lah. Because the government is not making things easier. As the country progresses, there's more demand from overseas, and also people in Singapore earn higher incomes. The demand for properties get higher and higher, and therefore the government needs to control the property market from overinflating. Therefore, it became 20%. And in year 2018, sadly, again, government came out with another cooling measure on top of a few other cooling measures like ABSD and whatnot, but for this we want to zoom down to just the LTV to make down payment 25%, which is the loan to value becoming 75%. And that really changed the whole landscape. Why? Because today buying properties is getting harder and harder. So back then, before the cooling measure in 2018, to buy a $1 million 3-bedroom apartment in Park Rivera, you basically just need 23% of $1 million is 230K in order to buy a 3-bedroom. And fast forward closer to the tail end of 2018, a 2-bedroom unit in Whistler Grand costs about 900 over K with a down payment of 28%, because the 25% is for the down payment and then 3% is for the stamp duty. So all in all, 28% for a 900K property is 252,000. So back then, just 1 year before, a 3-bedroom, $1 million, you can buy with 230K, but with the same down payment, 1 year after that, they cannot even buy a 2-bedroom liao. So sad or not? So that's why we always say your government never make it easier for you. Now, on top of the loan to value, there's also this thing called the buyer's stamp duty that affects the overall down payment, because you need to pay this upfront as well. So this amount gradually increased since 2018. From 3% it went to 4%, and most recently it went up to 6%. But before you jump and scold the government, whatnot, right? It's not as drastic. Basically, as the higher tier your property quantum goes up, the percentage of tax increases along with the overall purchase quantum. So just to give you an example, if you actually bought a $2.5 million property in 2022, right? For a $2.5 million property, you need to pay $84,600 for your stamp duty. But given the latest computation method, you will have to pay $94,600. That means you pay 10K more. So all in all, right, your stamp duty will increase by 10K. Now, with 25% upfront plus your stamp duty, it will equate to a total of $719,600. This will be the required down payment. Do you have this amount? If you have, yes, you're good to go. If not, then sorry, you need to find alternative ways. Now, before I go to the next point, which is all the running costs, right? Of course, today you want to buy property is easy, you buy. You can afford down payment, you buy. But if today you already have like maybe 4 kids, then your monthly commitment is very, very high. Are you still able to afford the monthly commitments on this property? But before we go into that, just a fun fact, right? If you didn't already know, today when you buy a resale property, you need to pay the 25% upfront. But if you're buying a brand new property, especially something that is foundation is not being completed, that means the construction has not even commenced yet, right? You only need to pay 20% down. The balance 5% that you have not paid for your down payment, right, that will only be caught up upon the completion of the foundation work. And for example, if you look at properties like Lake Garden Residences, they have launched for a few months, but until now the foundation is not completed yet, meaning to say that most of the owners today have only just paid 20% down payment and 5% is still not paid yet. Therefore, if you know that there are certain amounts of funds coming in later, right, in let's say 6 to 8 months later, you can consider buying a new launch because your down payment will be delayed for a little bit. Now, coming to the running cost, there are a few things you need to take note, which is the monthly installment. Of course, you know that. Number 2 is your monthly maintenance. That means you pay for your car park, pay for the cleanings, and all this kind of thing. So monthly property tax, which will use the annual property tax value to divide by 12 to derive at this. So for monthly installment, we are talking about a $7,216. Before you shoot me down earlier on, the installment was much higher because that amount was based on loan eligibility calculation. That is 4.9%. But today, right, today banks for resale properties can offer you mortgage rates of below 3%. So sidetrack a bit, if you need to remortgage your property or have not remortgaged your property yet, time to do so. If you have not done so, it's already late. Quickly go and do it because it will save you tons of money. So for $7,216 monthly installment plus maintenance, $270 for context, one of the property's 3-bedroom, plus your monthly property tax of $60. You actually need $7,546 as your monthly maintenance for this property. So a lot of people say that it doesn't make sense. But one thing that people often forget, right? Today, when you buy a property, 23% of your monthly income actually goes to service your mortgage. So for one person, right, $6,800 multiplied by 2, assuming both of you are equal income at $9,000 each, right, the CPF OA, right, will actually contribute 23% of this amount, which is $3,128. And using these to minus off the 7,564, that means monthly you need to top up 4,436 in cash. Use 4,436 minus $14,400, right? Means to say that you actually have $9,000 over left. So whether or not it makes sense, I usually won't use opinion because using opinions is your word against my word. So most people, if they want to buy property, will always skew more towards like it doesn't make sense. But for me, we use numbers to make a decision. You use 4,436, you divide by $14,400. That means your asset allocation percentage monthly is 30%. That means 30% of your monthly take-home pay is being used to service your house. And if you use 7,564, which is the reason why most people don't buy properties, because if you use 7,564 divided by $14,400, which is your monthly take-home pay, you're allocating 52% of your monthly cash into your property, which makes sense. And why I say it makes sense is not because I'm a property agent, because according to bank studies, right, in Singapore, the average asset allocation in terms of your monthly cash outflow, 40% actually goes to real estate. So if you actually use about 40% of your monthly income, right, into real estate, you're just normal only. Because don't forget, Singaporeans, Asians in particular, generally love buying properties. And using 30% of your monthly asset allocation into real estate, right, is actually just normal. It's not even overcommitting yourself. So ask yourself this question, are you able to afford? Because different people will have different financial commitments. Seek a professional before doing anything. Now, in summary, all in all, we know a few things. Whether can you afford this property, 18K to buy a $2.5 million property. If you're someone who is more careful with your monthly spending, especially in your lifestyle, 18K, you are good to go. Number 2, loan to value is only getting lower and lower, meaning to say your down payment is getting higher and higher. And we're not even talking about the price increment. So buying in early always makes sense. And even if you think that because of all the government factors, of all the regulatory risks, right, price will go down. Not very good news for you also because TDSR, because of your age, the amount of loan you can get only goes lower and lower. So end up, you also won't get to benefit anything from the drop in pricing. If it ever happens, which haven't happened for very, very long already, if you're lucky, you also won't get to benefit. So with that, I come to the end of the video. It's a very long video already. And if you appreciate all this energy, we record for hours and hours. And the editor and the staff sit down here all sad. So if you appreciate that, do me a favor, like, subscribe, turn on notification bell and share this with your friends because real estate videos can help anybody here in Singapore. With that, see you at the next video and all the best to your property purchase. Bye!